Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we're going to be looking at this article. We have another one. So this one is from the Irish Times. So let's go ahead and read it. How the rise of Ozempic is reversing the progress on body positivity. Perceptions around weight and beauty have been transformed, with society's poorest the biggest loser. with society's poorest the biggest losers. So, again, we're going to see how fat acceptance is reframing this. We knew that they would be talking about Ozempic a lot, as they usually do. But as I told you guys, the numbers are not really that different from what I researched or what I saw. At least we're not seeing enough of an impact. So not very many people are even taking them. And yet there's all this coverage acting like the whole world is taking them. So I think that this is interesting. So that's one interesting framing of the discussion in 2026, is that everybody's on the drugs, even though that's not anywhere near reality. Okay. The potential ripple effect of the health revolution that is Ozempic is difficult to overstate. For starters, it is likely new jobs that help communities adapt to a healthier lifestyle will emerge. Governments will have more money to spend on treating other diseases, and even dating apps and other social groups will be likely to thrive as a new wave of healthy and confident users seek out partners. So, I don't know about all that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. I don't know about all that just because I feel like just because people are on Ozempic, it doesn't mean that the lifestyle is healthier. I don't think that our overall values have shifted. Again, I'm speaking primarily from a U.S. perspective, but I think it's probably relatively true in other areas as well. I don't know if the lifestyle is healthier. So I'm not sure. But other than that, I mean, maybe, but this is all very hypothetical, you know. Amid this positivity, there will be a cost, like making a bargain with the sorcerer who conjures up a powerful potion, granting eternal youth or happiness. These lost pounds will have unforeseen consequences. I hate the framing of Ozempic as a magic drug. I can't stand it. It's very TR. Super, super toxic ritualistic. Some social advances that have been made in recent decades are likely to come under threat, while the industries that promise to make people more beautiful may find themselves revitalized. Well, that just has to do with different trends. So as far as like the industry and stuff, I could see Vanity coming back in more, but again, that's kind of like a generational thing. It's kind of where Gen Z is headed. So they're going to affect culture and therefore industry. So that's, again, just a turning of the cultural page, so to speak, a generational shift. In 2017, the world seemed to fall out of love with plastic surgery. Did it? Doctors who specialize in butt implants, chin reconstructions, and facelifts saw ebbing demand for their services. The poor state of the economy in the years following the 2008 financial crash may seem like an obvious reason that people were less willing to spend thousands of dollars and risk going under the knife to pump up their breasts with silicone shells or shave off part of their noses and jawlines. But there was also a powerful shift occurring in society. Companies and advertisers had spent the previous decade telling their customers to embrace their imperfections. Following a remarkable sea change from the aspirational beauty marketing strategy in the industry, suddenly there was money to be made from not making customers feel bad about themselves, their choices, and their appearance on a daily basis. So, okay, there's really two issues I have with this. This idea that companies lead customers, I don't agree with. I think it's the other way. I think customers lead companies. So customers do what's popular. Customers don't create what's popular. This is a major disagreement I have with fat acceptance. Major, major, major disagreement. And that's also why I think they push for like I guess like I see it differently than they do. Like they see the chicken before the egg. I see the egg before the chicken, which it's kind of hard to say for, like that's probably a matter of opinion. But I don't believe that advertisers dictate what is popular. I don't agree with that at all. I think that advertisers reflect what is already changing or what is already popular. That's my opinion. But they do say that talking point quite a bit. Because it's the idea that all of a sudden, even that there's even inconsistency. So it's like suddenly there was money to be made from not making customers feel bad about themselves. So the company is responding to the public then, right? So they're advertising, like, or is the company creating it? I don't know. They struggle with that. It had been 15 years since Unilever's Sylvia Lagnato, sorry, I'm terrible with names, had shocked the consumer giant's executives by showing them videos of their daughters dissecting their bodies and highlighting a multitude of perceived flaws and imperfections. The highly successful Dove campaign that followed in the early 2000s that featured larger, healthier-looking women across the spectrum of ethnic groups shamed the body, cosmetic, and fashion industries into embracing a more achievable idea of health. I don't remember that being in the early 2000s. Maybe I forgot. I thought that was later. But to be fair, I guess I don't remember Dove campaigns in the early 2000s. The view that female beauty was defined by being white and ultra-thin was finally shattered, and women began to respond more positively to their own bodies. By 2017, I don't know if that, like, I'm only going to speak on the thin aspect because I feel like they're often using race as a way to create an emotional connection, or like they try to, it's the same thing they always do, where they try to align fat acceptance with other causes or with other stuff because it's not enough on its own. So you always have to make it about more than just weight. You have to make it about race as well, or you have to make it about being a woman. Like the whole article is about women, and then they have to throw race in, and then they have to throw that, I'm saying, like, so I feel like that's just a distraction point. So we're going to just talk about this. As far as being thin, was the idea that being thin was attractive shattered in 2017? I don't think so. But this is that same revisionist history. This one is a little bit different, where it's like the past was better. So this one's focusing more on the past was better, which is interesting. So maybe they are. I do see an obsession with the past. So I guess we can say that as a trend. They are obsessed with the past. By 2017, the year before Ozempic was launched in the U.S. market, celebrities like Hilary Duff and Demi Lovato were being praised for posting pictures celebrating their imperfections and encouraging their fans to do the same. Retailers and fashion brands responded by having a wider variety of sizes available in their stores and featuring plus-size models wearing their clothes on their websites. In early 2018, as endocrinologists and other doctors around the U.S. began prescribing the little-known but seemingly effective diabetes drug to their patients, they inadvertently set in motion a reversal of that body positivity love-in. As the weight loss benefits of the diabetes medication became more apparent and the catchy jingle, "Oh, oh, oh, Ozempic," went around and around in people's heads, the public conversation around weight, body acceptance, and diversity shifted. So they really are just like, this is 100% Ozempic, which again, Ozempic it hasn't changed everything at this point. They're over-exaggerating the effect of Ozempic. I think it has more to do with other trends and people being tired of it and all that stuff. Around 2018, there was a lot of conversations about weight and health that I remember. I remember taking part in those conversations. I remember hearing those conversations. Even if you look at Jubilee, which is notorious for being super fat acceptance leaning, even the panelists on there were discussing their health in a 2018 weight-related panel, or like Spectrum video or whatever. There was a concern over health, and it's because a lot of people were getting older in fat acceptance, even back then, which again, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for a super morbidly obese person, it's a lot longer, I'll put it to you that way, than for a healthy weight person. So already by then, people were starting to be concerned about it. And I remember seeing a lot of conversations, which is probably why there was a lot of dollars going into Ozempic, basically a lot of research and stuff, because diabetes is getting worse and the whole shebang, right? So it's like, I think that the health issues probably had more to do with the cultural shift, but what do I know? I guess it was just the Ozempic ads, you know? People who began taking the drugs were often awed by their power to transform their bodies and finally make them thin. It's over-dramatizing the effects of the drugs. They could suddenly be the size they had long dreamed of. Suddenly? No. It's not sudden. See, you see the framing of this article? It's very TR. And as their weight rapidly declined, Vanity took over. Very TR. As many paraded their Ozempic body and Ozempic face to their thousands of Instagram and TikTok followers, they began pointing out their flaws, suggesting various nips and tucks they could embark on to get the ultimate body. Plastic surgeons were now back in business. So part of that has to do with the toxic ritualistic drive, which for those of you guys who are not on the channel often, it has to do with E followed by letter D. Particularly, we talk a lot about BINGE on this channel. So basically, it's very common if you take the drug and you have the TR, so you have this mental health issue, you often try not to do, like a lot of people don't do any mental work with it, which I highly suggest you do the mental work as you're doing it, but they don't. So they get to a certain weight and then they're obsessed with only the superficial aspects. So they don't really talk about their health as much. Like Amy and Half is a really good example of this. She's like obsessed with it. And if she ever were to not be able to take Ozempic, her entire recovery is based in it. So she would believe that she would have to regain everything if she got off of it, psychologically. So it's kind of like, I understand it from a business perspective. There is this like, you want to have like a lifelong customer, but I think it's really debatable and if it's necessary forever for everyone, especially if they're not diabetic, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people, they refuse to do the work. They want to hold on to the issue. And for them, they view the drug as a way to keep the TR alive, but also lose the weight at the same time. And so then, because the TR is alive and well, and they still hate their bodies, then they point out their flaws, suggesting various nips and tucks, right? And then those other people can get more money out of them. So I advocate on a personal or like on a activistic level to not stay in the TR, because then you can look at things more clearly. I'm not saying that getting nips and tucks is TR, but I am saying that if somebody is obsessing over their flaws after a big downsizing journey, it's giving TR. I'll put it to you that way. It's not great. It's at least TR light, or it's TR adjacent, because it has to do with weight and you're kind of leaning it. It's like they often can't handle no longer having the problem. So they have to create new problems. That's what I see when I see that. A typical consultation begins with the marker. Plastic surgeons like the one Sophia Porter. But again, we have to take this with a grain of salt because this article is incredibly biased and the person writing this likely has a toxic ritualistic issue. So I will say that. But notice the framing of it. It's all to reinforce, to almost to make the reader feel bad about themselves for not being able to take Ozempic, or to feel bad about themselves if they did take Ozempic, even if it was for weight loss. which I don't think you should feel bad about it. I just think you should be smart about it. I don't suggest Ozempic for people within the TR because they will often do certain behaviors to buy, even like pushing themselves beyond the medication and all that stuff, which I think is awful. And they might not use it correctly. And they're also likely to lie about their experiences with it, which is also not good. But again, most people don't have that issue. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's complicated. I have a more neutral stance on Ozempic personally, because I think for a lot of people it does work and for a lot of people it doesn't work. So I view it very mixed. I don't think that somebody should be pressured to take it, but I also don't think somebody should be shamed for taking it. I just say, like, if you have the TR and you're taking it, you got to do the work. You've got to. You have to do the work regardless. On this channel, I don't care if you're taking it or not. You have to do the work. So that's kind of beside the point. But anyways, okay. Let's continue. Plastic surgeons like the one Sophia Porter went to identify and highlight with an antiseptic marker the areas of the body that will be cut, pulled, or shaved. Porter wanted to remove the excess skin around her waist and buttocks and to fill out her sunken cheekbone. She was experiencing Ozempic face, a condition where a person's cheeks appear hollow, sagging, and gaunt as a result of fast weight loss, one of the unwelcome side effects of these medications. In a surprising twist, GLP-1 drugs are now creating the widest possible pool of customers for plastic surgeons. Historically, obese patients were not suitable candidates for a host of procedures because the disease heightens the risk of bad reactions to anesthesia, infections, slower wound healing, and even blood clots post-surgery. But now these doctors can prescribe weight loss medications to patients and then charge patients to fix their cosmetic problems with liposuction or tummy tucks once they've slimmed down. In 2023, the most recent year for which data is available, non-invasive procedures like Botox and dermal fillers, the latter of which can restore volume in a person's cheeks and give the appearance of greater elasticity, were the most popular. Body lifts are also booming among patients looking to remove excess skin. A lower body lift tackles issues around the stomach, waist, hips, and thighs, and buttocks. A surgeon will typically charge around $11,000 to make an incision around the body, removing an apron of excess skin and fat. But while already wealthy surgeons line their pockets, this resurgence of plastic surgery will have lasting consequences for society. The heightened focus on fixing all of one's perceived flaws will reverse the advances that had been made around the body image and beauty. It will also contribute to a resurgence of the toxic ritualistic and other mental health issues. That's not true. So the TR never went away. Let's just be so for real. That never went away. Fat acceptance never did anything for it. Body positivity never did anything to fix it. Let's just be honest. It didn't. In some people, maybe it transitioned it to a different one. In other people, maybe they had like a false recovery experience. But in general, it didn't help. So this person is just wrong in thinking that the past helped the issue. It didn't. If anything, it I don't know if it made it worse, but it certainly didn't help. We can say that. It did not help at all. It's just there's a lot of reinforcement in it. But again, people find ways of getting reinforcement. So what bothers me the most about fat acceptance is just that it teaches people that don't have the issue to act like they do. It's like you're teaching people how to have it without them having it. That's horrifying, which is basically what it is. So anyways, and that's what she's still doing. So again, she's upset because it's like the popular TR might be changing or something, and she feels threatened because when you're within the TR, you have to change. So if somebody else does something, then you have to do it too, which isn't true. But you see, like, I don't give a fuck if somebody does all these surgeries and stuff. I'm not necessarily going to do it because they did it. I don't care if people don't do them. I'm not necessarily not going to do it because other people didn't do it. I'll make my own fucking decisions. It's not, I'm not like huge on surgery personally. I really like natural. Like, I'm a very natural girly pop. I like being natural. I just do. That's me, So I want to see where I'm at. But if there's certain little things that I want to get done at a certain point in my life, I have every right to do that. But I'm not going to make that decision based on what other people are doing. I could give a shit less. It's not going to change what I do. And I feel like that's the normal response. I think being obsessed with what everybody else is doing, I think it's not great. I'll put it to you that way. It's giving TR. Giving a bit of TR. Anyways. Okay. The pandemic already created a tinderbox of mental health issues in young people. Hospitalizations for conditions like, you know what, spiked. And the popularity and availability of such an effective weight loss medication could make it easier for people who want to aggressively reduce their consumption to do so. Studies have shown that over half of people with the toxic ritualistic have done something. Okay. Anne Becker's research on the toxic ritualistic in remote societies in Fiji showed us that by merely watching Western television that featured ultra-thin celebrities, women who had never engaged in the toxic ritualistic were doing stuff to bring their weight down. Gosh, this article really doesn't want me to read it. These studies suggest that if celebrity culture once again champions, celebrates, and displays a vision of beauty that is mainly thin, it can have a detrimental effect on the toxic ritualistic and the overall mental health of women and men. So there really is this idea, which Compulsive Rambler did say this, that just the act of seeing somebody who's thin is enough to create a problem in a person. I have a feeling that a lot of those women already had an issue. They maybe just switched it. Which again, that can happen. And there isn't a lot of intuitive understanding on that. Like for me, I was so deep into the one that I was doing that I couldn't even fathom doing a different one. But for a lot of people, they do shift around. In 2023, it once again appeared to be acceptable to joke about thinness becoming the ultimate prize. Late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel kicked off the Academy Awards with the topical joke, "When I look around at this room, I can't help but wonder, is Ozempic right for me?" Less than 2 years later, the Golden Globes host Nikki Glaser trotted out an almost identical gag. "It was Ozempic's biggest night," she quipped. These jokes needed little explanation. The comedians were surveying a room full of ultra-thin celebrities and assuming that a large proportion of them were taking a weight loss medication intended for people suffering from clinical obesity or type 2 diabetes. For years, tabloids and social media users have been speculating about which celebrities were taking vitamin O. Serial dieter and Weight Watchers ambassador Oprah Winfrey admitted taking the drug, and as have countless other stars and business leaders like Tesla boss Elon Musk. I think that there's just so much like comparison within BINGE. Like that's what I'm seeing. This whole article is just comparing. It's like encouraging you to compare yourself to celebrities, compare yourself to other people, compare yourself to the trends, compare yourself to other people losing weight, compare yourself to people taking the drug, compare yourself to people. Like it's so much of that. And I just feel like it's not necessary. You know, it's exhausting. It's even kind of exhausting to read. The effectiveness of weight loss medications, especially if they continue to improve, means that anyone who wants to be thin and has the resources to pay over $1,000 a month out of pocket can attain the body they have always dreamed of with the click of an injectable pen, while poorer people who are already more prone to struggle with weight issues and obesity are likely to become even more stigmatized. You can lose weight without it. So again, this is a way to kind of enforce to somebody in the issue that they cannot lose weight without the medication. So therefore providing a psychological justification to those people to reinforce so that they can tell people in their lives, well, I can't do it because I can't take Ozempic because I can't afford it. That is an excuse. You can downsize without Ozempic. And for some reason, that has been forgotten or lost upon society, which again, it's in large part because of women like this that are writing this article. It's somebody in the TR who is weaponizing it. That's a way of weaponizing the drug to encourage people to stay huge. That's what she's doing. Because we know on this channel, we all know you don't need it. You don't. So no. And it's not a magical solution either. Meanwhile, many food manufacturers will pursue these poorer customers who do not have the means to arm themselves with the GLP-1 drugs that seem to act as an antidote to highly processed and addictive meals. Again, it's everybody else's fault, every time. And if the wealthier people who have more political power feel that their children are getting healthier, if childhood obesity levels decline in this group, poorer citizens will have fewer people fighting in their corner, seeking healthy alternatives or calling out food deserts in inner cities. Has fat acceptance done anything for those issues? No. No. Would it even matter if there are other things available? Not necessarily. Because again, it's a cultural issue. It is. People have choices. As long as people have choices, it's going to be primarily a cultural issue. And remember, the poorer you are, you're not able to be so big if you're that broke. The people who struggle the most are middle class people who have choices. It's a cultural problem. This widening gulf between thin and rich and poor and overweight will deepen the divide between both classes and races. Okay, we're just throwing race in there when it comes to health and happiness. And she's really trying to make it a class thing. So they're going to try to use that even further. But see, they use everything. It's a woman thing, it's a class thing, it's a race thing, it's a this thing, it's a that thing, it's an everything thing. It's everything except the choices that an individual is making as an adult. That's what it is. It seems inevitable that greater supplies of these drugs and new varieties will drive down their costs in the future, but that may take years. In the meantime, companies will have few incentives to continue championing the virtues of body positivity and can slide back to their old ways of celebrating an unattainable version of femininity and beauty. It took decades for the body positivity movement to gain momentum and attract the kinds of voices that forced big, powerful industries to change. The next generation will have to navigate this new world that is far less accepting of different shapes and sizes. Younger children born into larger bodies will be the ultimate casualty of the death of a movement that was created to make them feel more confident and accepted. So she's projecting herself into the kids of today and the kids of the future, which I don't agree with shaming and all that stuff, but it's also like we need to do something to address childhood obesity. But she's just so enforcing of the idea that it's impossible. That it's like she'll keep those kids fat, or she'll push to keep the kids fat because she has to prove to herself that what she's doing is because she can't do anything different. That's basically what it is. It's very sick, and so many of these people dominate the conversations. And you just see it over and over again. That's what I see over and over and over again. Because there's so many inconsistencies here. So if you see a very thin person, that's going to trigger the TR in somebody. But if you see a very fat person, that's not. It's very inconsistent. It's bizarre. Anyways. But they are the very people that drug companies and doctors are trying to target next. Okay. So then it's kind of like it ends with the, I'm a victim. So I guess fat acceptance is really struggling with the concept of the future. They're really terrified. So that's what I'm seeing this year. I'm seeing a lot of focus on the past, maybe likely because they fear the future. And I think they fear the future because they don't have easy formulas to just hashtag the movement onto a trending topic, because topics are too fast. Topics have shifted. different social media algorithms are more divided. Like, it's kind of like they're more mixed and divided these days. Again, Gen Z is not, I don't think Gen Z is as like left right. They're kind of more like a mixture of stuff, you know? And I think it was probably easier when millennials were more relevant 5-10 years ago to just go based on like traditional political lines. It's harder now for them, and they just can't reinvent. I think that that's what it is. Which, like I said, I've said it many times, I do think that Gen Z is a huge part of why fat acceptance is failing. I think that they're just, it's like they're different in a way that fat acceptance activists just cannot understand. And I think it's because they don't have any empathy. I've told you guys that a lot. I don't think they have the ability to understand. Everything is like framed around their perspective or what they went through, or like Kellogg's cereal commercials in 2003 that is just not relevant to a Gen Z either. So it's interesting. It's a flop, but here we are. These are just my thoughts. Again, I'm just doing these articles to get more data, essentially. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.